What you're looking at right now is the first computer-generated animation ever made in Japan. You're probably thinking, damn, this looks so much better than Berserk 2016. From what I understand, 2 University of Tokyo students drew geometric figures with a computer-controlled plotter, displayed them on a CRT screen, and recorded that on film. It makes you wonder, how much easier was this to do versus just drawing it out on paper? I know that's not the point of this particular work of art. This was intended to experiment with a computer's capabilities for animation. But when we look at the conversation around CGI right now, it centers almost entirely around its utility. How much effort and time it saves so that an anime can make its arbitrarily appointed deadline. It's interesting to look back at a time when CGI took more time and was more of a pain in the ass to execute. It would only take another year before we got the very first CGI anime girl in Computer Movie Number 2. She was animated on an IBM computer and then filmed on 16mm in a very similar process to the previous film. She gets put through the ringer here, goddamn. This, like the previous film, is an abstract collection of moving images. The main draw of this stuff is the novelty, the method of how it was created. Computer Movie Number 2 sits in the same category as Metastasis and Oh My Mother, all those experimental short films of the late 60s and early 70s. CGI animation has very different roots compared to pen and paper animation. While the earliest hand-drawn cartoons told comprehensible stories about funny animals and kids, the earliest computer-generated animations are geometry lessons. Around this time, there's a huge gap in the culture between Japanese CG animation and cell animation. The reason for this, and this is entirely my speculation, is because there was such a huge barrier to entry for computer animation at the time that to get into it, you had to be a computer nerd first and an animation nerd second. So to really bridge the gap between this and this, you'd need to look at what was happening in the world of CGI outside of Japan. Things like the Apteryx and the Easter Bunny, computer animated hand, faces and body parts, what are essentially just a bunch of tech demos. But if you're anything like me, you'd rather look at Thing Japan. So let's skip over all this shit and look at Biosensor, a CGI short film about a robot tiger with a missile in its stomach that it uses to explode a Mesopotamian ziggurat, melting a skeleton down and unleashing 4 deadly character models upon the world. Can you believe this movie was popular enough to get parodied 4 years later? By some French guys, so you can just imagine how funny it is. This is what I mean when I say that the CG animator culture was disconnected from anime culture. Computer animation was a worldwide technological movement rather than a local cultural movement. The guys involved in the earliest computer animations were either computer scientists or more high art inclined animators like Taku Furukawa, who made Play Jazz, a cover of some Henry Matisse art he made by converting them from cut paper collage into computer animation. That's pretty cool. He also made Mac the Movie, which is this. A bunch of short, looped, digitally hand-drawn animations. Reminds you of something, doesn't it? Actually, a lot of the earliest CG animation was not even 3D. In fact, the earliest CG animation did not include 3D models. We only started getting those towards the late 60s and early 70s. So a lot of this stuff is drawn by hand and two-dimensional. This reviewer calls Mac the Movie a harbinger of gifs, which is kinda true. But the DSI heads watching this already know what this is the real harbinger of. Flipnote! Actually, all 2D CG animation is the harbinger of Flipnote and Newgrounds, and I'm not just talking about the method these people use to create the art, I'm also talking about the culture surrounding it. And nowhere is this more true than with the Amiga community. I mean, Eric Graham's Juggler. This is one of the most influential 3D animations ever made. Look at the shadows. Look at how the light reflects off the surface of the marbles. Look at the silent focus of the juggler. Look at that infinite grid pattern going off into the horizon. Look at that sky! Now that you've sufficiently admired this, which is one of the most referenced pieces of 3D animation ever, let's take a look at the Jugette, made by Eric W. Schwartz. One thing you will understand by the end of this video is how influential Gooners have been on the development of CGI animation. Eric Schwartz himself made dozens of animations for the Amiga, most of which were furry sex comedies. Unofficial Amiga mascot Amy the Squirrel, Flip the Frog and his girlfriend Clarissa the Cat, anthropomorphic Amiga animator Sabrina the Skunk, and the Red Sonja parody Red Shetland. No, I'm not gonna lie. These animals are very sexy, but my favorite is probably Sabrina, specifically because of how unsexualized she is. She feels a lot less gimmicky than the rest of them. Plight of the Artist was so influential that it inspired Brian Reynolds to make a damn near carbon copy of it a year later. Maybe I shouldn't say that. I mean, if you're a furry who animates on Amiga computers, then losing all your progress is probably a common occurrence, or at least a fear, so making an animation about it makes sense, but the parallels are just too numerous for me to discount them. And that's not me shitting on Brian here. I mean, I'm just glad to see Amiga animations. Watching Eric Schwartz's stuff taught me a lot about creating art, even if I'm not an animator. Sometimes you just have to be totally self-indulgent and act on your nerdiest and basest impulses. Schwartz sensei is obsessed with two things: sexy animals and the Amiga operating system. So he made a 2-decade-long comic strip about exactly that. It's called Sabrina Online, and Amy the squirrel manages to last half a year before getting impregnated. A round of applause, everyone. This comic is just as horny as his animations in the sense that it's not pornographic, but it is a sex comedy, so characters fall in love with each other as soon as they meet in classic webcomic fashion, and they have sex constantly. When it's not about animals having sex, it's about total nerd shit. Amiga operating system versus Windows and Mac. Constant jokes about Transformers toy collecting, which manifests in the Transformers toys gaining sentience and having their own side stories, and interacting with people at the porn company Sabrina works at, which is run by Zigzag the tiger skunk, who always has to explain that she's a skunk whose grandpa was part tiger or some shit, because furries cannot keep themselves from 23andMeing their personas. Keep in mind, this same character, who has like the second most appearances in the entire comic after Sabrina, despite being one of the few characters not created by Eric Schwartz, tries to sexually assault our main character early on, resulting in a #MeToo conversation about her behavior and how she'll try to do better in the future, which she doesn't, because all of the jokes between her and Sabrina are entirely about her sexually harassing her, which makes that earlier conversation so much weirder. Like, if this story is a sex comedy that takes place in a cartoon world, then you can easily play off Zigzag's sexual harassment for laughs. But then you made her acknowledge her actions were wrong in a realistic fashion, and then you made her keep harassing Sabrina in a comedic fashion, and then you made her talk about her dark past where she was sexually abused by her family in between strips about a Transformers toy election, where one toy calls another a retard. The Transformers toys get more panels than the animals at some point. I read all 20 years of Sabrina Online in 2 days, so I just had to get all that out of my system. Sinfest reference! So anyways, if we look at— oh, by the way, there's a whole storyline here where Sabrina's baby sister Tabitha finds Sabrina's porn company's website, and in order to conceal the truth, Sabrina and Zigzag convince her that it's an art studio and that those nude people are artistically nude. Zigzag then gets the brilliant idea to do a safe-for-work photo shoot with Sabrina's baby sister as a means of throwing her off the trail. Sabrina, the straight man usually, somehow agrees to this, and so they have a sort of Greco-Roman photo shoot, after which Zigzag legitimately considers putting those pictures of a child on her website, her porn website. She doesn't, but she thought of it. What the fuck's going on here, man? My analytical tools fail me when it comes to Sabrina Online. Now, where were we? Sabrina Online, Eric Schwartz, Amiga, Amiga's fan culture. There were compilations of other people's fan animations on cassette as well, like Amigamations 1993, preserved on AmigaVideo.net, a fan website dedicated to the preservation of all things Amiga video related. There's even Amiga fan contests being held in the 2020s that Eric Schwartz himself participates in, and there's Amiga fan magazines in Europe, still running right now. It's been 40 years! What are these people doing? But they're not the only ones to carry the torch. I'd talk about Newgrounds, but enough people have already talked about that. And the first thing that came to my mind anyways was Flipnote. I'd argue Flipnote is the evolution to this type of thing. Where the Amiga had people compiling animations into cassette tapes and shipping them by mail, Flipnote had people uploading them directly to the internet on hana, really streamlining the process. I mean, sure, Flipnote is not nearly as robust a software as any of the Amiga-compatible animation softwares of the 80s, but the fact that it was so simple in its scope meant that it was a great toy for developing the fundamentals of animation and visual storytelling for an entire generation of kids, and also a way to advertise teenage dating chat rooms. These days, the Pseudo Memo website puts a decent amount of effort into preserving the 44 million Flipnotes uploaded to Hana back in the day, and there's even people making and uploading them right now despite Nintendo canceling the Hana service.
Yo, what I've been showing you has been the cream of the crop of what Flipnote actually has to offer, and I fear that might give you a skewed image of what Flipnote was really like. So I'm going to show you a few random Flipnotes back to back so you can get an idea of what this place was really like.
I am the evil apple. 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 Evil apple. Evil apple. Evil apple. Evil apple. Evil apple. Evil. Welcome to Wild Out Sports, where everyone is stupid and do dumb things. Today we'll be watching a skateboarder tripping over a rock. Can't wait to see it. Okay, here I go. Yeah! Woo! I'm doing pretty good right now, huh? And my camera got...
I almost love this stuff more than that peak animation we were getting earlier.
Mac the movie fits right alongside the various short Flipnote loops kids were making 30 years after its release. Eric Schwartz's sexy animals don't look so out of place alongside all the furry animations on Flipnote, except that most of the latter are Pokemon related and most of Schwartz's animations came out before Pokemon even existed. If you want a good idea of where CG animation was in the 1980s, the best thing to watch would be State of the Art of Computer Animation from 1988. Most of this stuff was made by computer scientists and nerds who were more interested in geometry and fantasy and lofty science fiction ideas than they were in telling a coherent story, which leads to some awe-inspiring visuals. In some cases, it takes someone with no regard for storytelling to remind you what film is actually about: dreaming. There are some Pixar animated shorts in here. They're the easiest to watch, but also the least emotionally moving. I'm way more interested in these surreal, dreamlike ones. Like this one, where this bird really wants to fuck this fish. Hey, wake up! Hey, Shardy, I'm not supposed to be down here. Nah, I'm finna die down here. Nah.
Oh, you so sexy.
I think I'm finna stay down here. Nah. You know how to cook mofongo? I love the Hajime Sorayama inspired one a lot, for reasons. The collection also contains Peppy by Taku Kimura, who also worked on Biosensor. This one is about a cute pineapple playing ukulele in what I can only assume is Hawaii. This is a pretty popular one among early CGI enthusiasts. Speaking of Hawaii, I think it's about time I cracked open that one anime everybody's been waiting to hear about. Yuki Terai in Virtual Hawaii. Wait, no, that comes later. Flying Luna Clipper. Flying Luna Clipper! For a 1987 film made mostly on an MSX, it sure mogs all that other shit we were just talking about. It's so crazy to see a work of art just take the belt home and keep it so early in a medium's lifespan. I'd say that everyone was playing catch up to this movie, but nobody even knew it existed until the 2010s. So all those amateur computer animations of the past were already in the shadow of this behemoth without even realizing it. I want to talk more about Flying Luna Clipper, but what else is there to say? I mean, from a journalistic standpoint, it's already been thoroughly researched and documented. The guys at RomChip conducted an interview with the creator, Iko Ono, and it's a very pleasant read. A stark difference to the machine-translated nightmares I usually subject myself to. I could talk about how dreamlike it is, but isn't all cinema some manner of dreaming? Flying Luna Clipper is just the most open about it. It's kind of like talking about LSD Dream Emulator. What can someone tell you about it that you wouldn't get better from just experiencing it? I want to fuck the banana? Is that what you want to hear? Well, I do, and I stand on that bitch! Going into the early 90s, most CGI anime comes to us in the form of EDM music videos. Denki Groove had a few of these. My favorite would have to be Nothing's Gonna Change, which takes an unexpectedly gruesome turn towards the end. A close second is the one where the hippopotamus spaceship launches its Denki Groove branded bear probes onto a planet where they unleash poop hell. We also get Bit the Cupid, semi-lost media that I refuse to watch more than one episode of because I don't really care about this kind of shit. I'm not opposed to watching stuff for kids, it's just that most of it doesn't appeal to me because I'm not a kid. It only takes until 1995 for us to get our first 3D animated stripper. And she's a Native American stereotype. Awesome. What the fuck did this guy do to his horse? Dude, if you can turn into a spaceship, what's even the point of riding a horse? That's a cinema sin if I've ever seen one. And just when you think he's saved the day, the boner mech shows up and catches on fire and explodes itself. The third episode of this OVA isn't CG, but it does have the most disgusting 30-second sequence in animated history, so I highly recommend it. Then, in 1998, we get our first fully 3D CG anime feature film. A full 3 years after Toy Story, and with a budget at least 1% of Pixar's and at most 7%, it's difficult to find the exact number. Visitor! This is what you've all been waiting for. Dreamcast FMV Core. And I'm not just talking about the visuals. There's so much sci-fi exposition here that a classic video game would so obviously have left for the cutscenes. I'll say though, it does look more cinematic than your average cutscene collection. Notice I didn't say better. I don't like to judge graphical quality, for reasons I'll get into later, but the shots specifically specifically are very cinematic. The whole movie has a stillness to it that's uncharacteristic of early CG animation, which just loves to make things move. All early animation is about the joy of watching things moving in different ways. The earliest cartoons would just make animals break out into song and dance because they could. They needed an excuse to get them moving. Visitor is different. Rather than obsessing over pushing the boundaries of 3D animation to its limits, it's all about making what would have been a prestige sci-fi film in live action, except in 3D now. And I'm not saying that disparagingly at all. The camera moves like a normal camera would in our world. It doesn't take advantage of the camera not being real to do the fantastical, physics-defying things CG cameras often like to do. There's an emphasis on shot blocking that makes it feel like there was a real cameraman in this virtual world. Most CG animation is made completely independent of the notion of a camera because you don't really need to think about it too much. The medium of cinema is an organism that evolved with the camera at its nucleus, and from there it mitosised its way into Michael Bay's masterpieces.
Blue power, motherfuckers, Miami PD!
By contrast, the camera was used simply as a matter of convenience for the earliest CGI animation, and by the time we hit the 80s, the camera became a total non-factor. Visitor seems like it's trying to introduce the cinematic camera into the medium. There's a ton of dialogue that you can tell would have won one of these actors an award if it was in live action, and that, to me, is the only mark against the film. Because these character models are so rudimentary, they can't convey the truly nuanced emotions these characters are expressing. It's not an over-the-top story. The characters are naturalistic. The voice lines are delivered in a grounded manner. They really need the facial expressions to accompany the voice lines. It's really a testament to the talent of the voice actors that this movie even works at all. The movie is also a little bit boring because of all the exposition, but in a film this atmospheric, I kind of welcome that. I'm actually glad the first 3D CG Japanese anime feature film is the way that it is. I was only half kidding when I called this Dreamcast FMV core. According to the CD-ROM rip, there was supposed to be some kind of Dreamcast game in production alongside the movie, but I can't find anything on it. All you lost media freaks, put your magnifying glasses down. This is never came out media, so I don't want any of you looking for it. For those who don't know, Spacetoon is a children's cartoon channel based in Arabia. It's where a bunch of Arabic-speaking children got their first taste of Arabic-dubbed anime. Dragon Ball, Naruto, Hunter x Hunter, Beyblade, Alf the Animated Series, and most famously, Captain Majid. So you can imagine why I can't wrap my head around the fact that they made a visitor dub. Like, what kid would want to watch this? I know I called it a little boring, but it's fucking satin tango compared to the regular programming. Listen to that fire-ass opening. Perhaps more interesting than the movie itself is the 3-volume making of series that I wish everything I'm talking about in this video had. This has yet to be English translated, but it's still pretty fun to watch. Look, skeleton boobs, I think. A lot of the team here is the team from Pat Labor, so the two main leads of the movie are based off Clancy and Noah. Something I notice in the comments section of films like this is how people talk about old 3D CG with terms like dated and outdated. It's a peculiar phenomenon. We don't shit on old movies for not looking like new movies. Imagine somebody watched Casablanca and said, "Good, but the visuals are dated." That sounds like an AI-generated ass comment. I think this is a phenomenon of CGI's quality being directly tied to hardware in a way that other art isn't. How good you are with a pen isn't dependent on how good the pen is. It's dependent on your hand. How good you are with a camera isn't dependent on how good the camera is. It's dependent on your eye. But how good your computer-generated graphics look does depend in large part on your computer and the software you use on that computer. If your computer can't handle high polygon counts and your software is limited in its scope, then your imagination can only manifest itself within those constraints. That much is obvious by the way CG artists salivate over new developments in technology in a way other artists don't. The releasing of new computer parts and software editions is a consistent stream of limitations being removed from them. That said, I still think we should speak differently about old CGI. This movie looks like a 90s 3D animated movie, the same way every 90s movie looks like a 90s movie, even when it's trying to be a 70s movie. I think the Uncanny Valley is the best thing CGI is capable of, and rather than trying to minimize it, we should be trying to maximize it. Or at least, not all our efforts should be put into minimizing the Uncanny Valley and maximizing realism. While that does lead to some great films like Gantz O, one of my all-time favorite movies period, it also feels like a kind of shame. A shame of these older works of art. These weren't just stepping stones to reach the good stuff. This is the good stuff in its own right, because of the way it is, and it is a style that deserves to be preserved, not just out of nostalgia, but because it is valuable in and of itself. The Uncanny Valley can show us real things, important things, ideas that are perhaps too complex and nuanced for the capital R real. I don't make video essays, but if this was a video essay, those last few minutes would be the thesis. Now, what's next? Oh man.
Alright, bruh. For all that shit that I just said, I did not like this movie. But I still think you should watch the English dub.
I repaired her myself. Isn't she something? Ouch!
That's sexual harassment.
Sex harassment? Target practice, huh?
The customer, please refrain from using foul language.
Get lost, you electronic freak. Hey, stupid, stop right there. This train just happens to run on nuclear fuel. You want to blow yourselves to smithereens? Well, what?
I love the Alita 3D Motorball special, mainly because of the last few seconds where all those years of Yukito Kishiro's agonizing devotion to Alita's hair are realized in full 3D CG. I'm gonna try to be measured in my commentary here. This is the best that computer-generated graphics have ever looked. It's either that or this legendary Digimon theme park animation where, and I think I speak for us all here, Agumon gives us what we were all asking for. Everybody, open your mouths! When Taku Kimura was painstakingly putting together the robot tiger and biosensor, this was the future he dreamed of. A future where we could render alien dinosaur feces in full 3D. You remember how Mac the movie kinda predicted GIFs in Flipnote? Ainen Sentai 5 predicted YouTube Kids brain rot.
So I was gonna plug my Patreon here, but before that, I just wanted to say if you have any disposable income and you would like to donate to me, please first, if you are able, donate it to Palestine, Sudan, or Congo. I'll put a bunch of links in the description. I just feel guilty asking for money when I don't desperately need any money right now. Meanwhile, there are people who really, really, really need it very desperately. So please donate to those causes if you are able to. And if you have some leftover disposable income after you donate to those causes, then I would very much appreciate being the recipient of some of that money. I wish Patreon had a pay whatever you want system, kind of like Itch.io and Bandcamp, but they don't, so I had to make a bunch of tiers. Based on how much people would potentially want to give. It's very presumptuous of me, I know. But all the tiers, they give the same rewards. Just you get your name right here in the video. There's not any special perks, any secret content. I don't have preferential treatment. I want to keep things simple, and I don't like putting secret content. I like to make everything available to everybody for free as much as I'm able to, and keep things ad-free. Haven't been contacted for any advertisements, but, that's whatever. So I would very much be honored to be the recipient of you guys' money if you have any left over after,
Virtual stars! Whoa, did we just enter a section? A lot of the best early computer animation comes in the form of tech demos. In the early 2000s, there began a series of very loosely connected tech demos, so loosely connected in fact that I can't even tell which one came first. So let's start with Virtual Star 2000. This series starts off with a half-naked alt girl dancing to maybe the shittiest song ever made. Possibly the second ever stripper in CGI anime history. I think these are also the first CGI boob jiggles. I think we just found a milestone in anime history. She then kills a bunch of zombies, loses her bra, and then we see some of the weirdest hair physics ever. I don't think these early animation softwares had gravity, so simulating hair movement becomes a challenge that all these early animations tackle differently. A lot of this collection is just music videos of girls with big boobs, demoing this very important technology, but I want to focus on two pieces here that are of particular interest. One is the short where a 3D animated girl who is dressed like my wife, Pink Pantheress, walks around in and interacts with the real world to a knockoff Super Mario 64 song. This is huge. I mean, for as long as anime has had cute girls, people have wanted those cute girls to come to life. And for as long as computer-generated art has been a thing, people have wanted to merge the physical and the virtual. This is the ultimate marriage of those ideas. There is a longing here with this girl walking through our world and questioning her existence. This is actually really impressive. You see her behind the fence, and she stands pretty convincingly on the ground. Going down the stairs poses a little bit of a problem, though. These shadows, though, these are huge. Maybe a computer animation expert can explain to me how this actually isn't very technically impressive, but just the idea of a real sun shining down on a virtual girl and leaving a shadow on the ground is blowing my mind 7 different ways. The sun shines down on her the same way it shines down on everyone else. Guys, I'm going to cry! I mean, this is a far cry from famous Dex Girl, but still impressive. And then after this, we have Yuki Terai's Digital Dream. Here, she introduces herself to the world with her legitimately chopped-ass dance moves. Why is Yuki Terai so special? Well, she's the world's second ever virtual idol. The first was Kyoko Date, but she's not as relevant to this video. In the 90s and 2000s, there was a boom in the virtual idol space. Computer-generated characters who could interact with the physical world like real people. Not actually like real people, rather like celebrities in the sense that they aren't real, but we still perceive them interacting with physical reality from a distance, through the scope of news and media. Except here, we're cutting out the idea that this was ever a real person and not some image created by a studio, because this image literally was handcrafted in a studio. And yet, weirdly enough, they wanted to blur the line between reality and fiction because they wanted us to treat these characters like real people with histories and personalities and an ability to interact with the world. They even give these characters ages and presumably age them over time, except none of these experiments lasted long enough to do that. On one hand, we can take the cynical reading that studios just wanted talent who could not possibly fuck them over by acting against studio guidelines and who weren't subject to labor laws and didn't have obligations to anything but the company. But I genuinely think that a more artistic intent was driving these endeavors. Yuki Terai, seen here looking like Rita from Gallerians, was born in Chiba, and at the age of 17, time traveled from 2017 to 1997, where she made her first appearance in Kenichi Kutsugi's manga Libido. After that, Yuki Terai appeared in her own series of specials called Yuki Terai's Secrets, where she barely even talks. It's a bunch of short films designed to showcase her versatility as a character model, idol. She's a pop star, martial artist, cat burglar, jazz singer, space adventurer, but my favorite is when she's a girl in a horror movie. There's something very compelling about this virtual idol spawning in a digital blueprint of her own apartment and being chased through the city by a bunch of copy-pastes of her character model, only to erase the entire universe and herself after killing one of her clones by pushing her into an advertisement. When I summarize it like that, it sounds pretty loaded. I also like the weirdly cinematic one with an indecipherable story where she's a spy in love with a blonde naval commander and she's drowning while hundreds of men die at war. They really distilled the wartime period drama theatrics into a potent gulp of CGI liqueur. Astaghfirullah. We also get some making of clips, which you know I love to death, even if it's all untranslated and I don't understand anything. But it's in Dancing Queen that we see the main reason Yuki Terai didn't catch on the way Hatsune Miku did in the future. A virtual idol exhibit hosted by Yuki Terai, showing off an international cast of talented women dancing to Y2K EDM. Not a bad idea, Yuki does make for a pretty good host, but this isn't an idol talent exhibit. This is a sex bot showcase. Yuki introduces each one of these character models with their 3 sizes, and then we see them dance to some Eurobeat while the camera gives us close-ups of their ass and tits. I don't think this necessarily failed because of any uncanny valley, but rather because they focused too much on the sex appeal. While Hatsune Miku had different circumstances regarding her creation as a virtual idol, Yuki Terai was, at least to some extent, the blueprint. What works for me about Miku that doesn't work about Yuki is the fact that it doesn't feel like any part of Miku was specifically designed around male desire. I'm not saying Hatsune Miku's design is completely free of male gaze, and I'm not even sure that's possible, but at least whatever parts of her design were motivated by that purpose, it doesn't stand out to me as glaringly as it does with Yuki Terai, whom we literally see in a test tube in a bikini zooming in on her tits. Her videos are literally packaged with boob physics tech demos. Clips from Virtual Star 2000 and Dancing Queen were used as examples of groundbreaking 3D animated pornography in Demon Lover. I'm not the biggest Hatsune Miku fan, but I have never seen a list of her 3 sizes anywhere. Maybe it's just me, but I really do feel like people would have been willing to accept the uncanny valley resulting from this early CGI if only it wasn't so catered to a specific idea of the male gaze. Like, girls can't have as much fun dressing up Yuki Terai as they can with Hatsune Miku, and that's a huge factor that wasn't considered. Like, Yuki Terai is legit cute and could have been a hit, but her origins have their roots in her sexualization. According to machine-translated Japanese Wikipedia, she wasn't originally created to be a virtual idol. She was created by mangaka Kenichi Kutsugi to be a gravure idol, which is basically a Japanese swimsuit model, but way more sexual. I got a physical copy of Libido, and Yuki Terai gets naked and fucked in the first 10 pages. Most of her scenes show her in some form of nudity having sex with a painter or something. When Kutsugi-sensei started experimenting with 3D graphics as a hobby, using the Shade 3D animating software, he ended up transforming Yuki Terai from a manga character into an animated idol. and the people he pitched her to were clearly receptive. Interestingly enough, you can still buy her modeling data on Amazon.
I don't want to come off like I'm some kind of prude who dislikes any work of art that has scantily clad, beautiful women in it. I'm not. If you enjoy Yuki Terai's Dancing Queen, that's totally fine. There's a lot to enjoy about it. There's some great music. We have an amazing remix of Fly High by Ayumi Hamasaki, who's one of my favorite pop singers of all time. And the character designs are legitimately very appealing. My main criticisms are twofold. Number one is that I don't like when a work of art feels like it's trying too hard to pander to me. That doesn't mean I don't like any work of art that has any scantily clad beautiful woman ever. It's just that there isn't really much here, which is fair because these are just tech demos. There's not supposed to be much here. And I'm talking about them like they're works of high art. That's kind of unfair to them and what their purpose was. My second criticism, however, is that the focus on sexuality limited the scope of Yuki Terai's potential, which then contributed to a reduced level of popularity. Now, this is just one of many factors. There is no shortage of variables that contribute to the popularity or lack of popularity of different works of art. I just wanted to make my thoughts clear.
Yuki Terai wasn't just in manga and anime, though. She was in games, too. She's on the cover of Primal Image Volume 1.
I just realized I didn't record anything talking about the game Primal Image Volume 1, but there actually isn't much to say. It's just a game where you select a model, put them in an outfit of your choosing, on a set of your choosing, and take a bunch of pictures of them. You're basically cosplaying as a photographer for some kind of magazine. It doesn't look like the most interesting game to me, but I think the idea here is pretty interesting.
You should play Pokemon Snap.
But you know me, I save the best for last. It's called Yuki Terai in Virtual Hawaii. I don't know what the fuck they were cooking with that title, because this looks like real Hawaii to me. Remember that girl from Virtual Star dressed like Yukari-sensei from Azumanga Daioh, walking around the real world? This is the next evolution. This is CGI Roger Rabbit. The creators of Hatsune Miku would never put her in a shower scene like this, but just look at how her body refracts through the glass. Look at how she grabs that glass of real orange juice and then puts it back down, and then walks away to the best music ever composed in history. The bike! The shadows on the bike! Do these people even realize how lucky they are to be walking past the Yuki Terai? To be walking past history in the making? I don't know how to tell you what this shot of Hawaii's real ocean reflected in Yuki's virtual sunglasses does to me. To a contender for greatest song of all time, no less! Foot fans, rate these feet. Here, she's reading what appears to be ABCDEFG by renowned author A.B. Classic airport novel, even if it is a total Crichton ripoff. Her shadow's on the sand, bro! Look at the shadows on the sand! And she's leaving footprints in the sand! And the water! Oh, the water! That was only the first half of episode 1 of this 2-episode OVA. Most of this thing is just shots of a most likely pre-9/11 Hawaii, but that alone is enough for anything to be a masterpiece. As a guy who has no idea how hard it is to do this stuff, this drives me nuts. So a woman named Jennifer-san is the model for Yuki Terai in Hawaii. And then later, they get a different model, who I didn't quite catch the name of, to be her motion capture model. We don't get the making of for my favorite scenes, but I always love this kind of stuff, especially seeing the motion capture. Yuki Terai herself narrating all of this just mesmerizes me. Like, imagine narrating your own conception. Wait, no, scratch that. Imagine narrating God's predestined plan for your vacation to Hawaii from behind the veil of creation, and talking enthusiastically about the decisions that God made for you. I guess the benefit of being a fictional character is that you don't have to have an existential crisis if your creator doesn't want you to. So for those prepared for meeting God, I think the afterlife will probably be some mortally incomprehensible version of Yuki Terai's DVD extras. There's one more virtual idol to talk about, but even just calling her an idol doesn't make much sense. Cyber Venus Faifai of My Shade 2 advertisement fame is a Chinese woman who doesn't do very much singing or dancing. She prefers the existentialist realm of surreal sci-fi vignettes, where Yuki Terai's films are mostly about her having a good time. Faifai's films feel closer to that one Yuki Terai short where she wasn't having a good time.
And by that, I don't mean that Faifai's in a bunch of horror short films, but rather that her short films have that sort of uncanny quality that resembles the uncanny quality of the Yuki Terai horror short.
These episodes usually revolve around a question that Faifai asks herself. Or us, I guess. They're not concrete questions with concrete answers. These stories are more about vibe and atmosphere than they are about plot or things happening that are easy to explain. I can't summarize any of this for you without completely wasting your time. I will, however, highly recommend watching this, especially the 17-minute psychedelic voyage she takes through real Italy. They couldn't get enough of this trick back then. Ooh. Whoa! I need to stop spoiling these elite level shots. You guys need to watch this for yourselves. You can also buy her modeling data on Amazon. That famous picture of her, the advertisement, was most likely taken from Shade's Galcon magazine. Shade being a company that made 3D animating software, and Galcon being a fan magazine of some sort. From what I understand on machine-translated Japanese internet, it was an online magazine where people made beautiful CGI girls and submitted them to be published.
Actually, a virtual model called Ryoko, made by someone called Yamag, debuted here, and in Virtual Star 2000. I actually don't know which one came first, but here is some crossover, so pretty interesting.
Faifai was easily the most popular one of these. Here's the Cyber Venus Faifai Samsung bus. She also has a photo book, and some hero uploaded the PDF to my favorite book downloading site. It's not the highest quality scan, but I'm not complaining. I wasn't even expecting to see this. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. We get a bunch of variants of her with a helmet. We get one, of course, with her tits out. We get her aura farming in front of a plane. We get one of her paying homage to a CG model machine translated as Makoto. Listen, man, I know this is the perfect video to talk about Ryuji Masuda's work, but I couldn't get into Poppy, Stain, Funny Pets, the other one, or the other one, which surprised me. Someone else has to go on a deep dive of all his work. I'd rather talk about Aurora 2000. Look at the hands in this one. They really made sure to put the nails in there. These hands are more Uncanny Valley than most CGI faces, including Quentin Tarantino's, who makes a cameo here.
I was gonna talk about Blue Remains, but I don't feel like it.
Look, all I know about Silent Hill is the few hours I played of the first game, so I don't know anything about this short film going into it, but I like it a lot. CGI is excellent at getting meat to move like this. You know what I'm saying? Like, the meat is moving unnaturally, but not implausibly. Meat definitely could move like this in real life if it was possessed by a ghost or injected with some nerve poison or something. I know about Pyramid Head. I know he's a beloved character. I've seen the fan art.
I've seen the fan art!
I just don't know who the fuck he is. But I don't think I need to in order to arrive at conclusions about this work of art. The way the meat is restrained compels me. I don't know what this is trying to depict, but it feels like the Cenobite world from Hellraiser, where pain and pleasure intertwine. And if you happen to visit, you will be inducted into these halls of flesh, whether you want to or not. Because of the lack of faces, you can't really tell if any of these creatures enjoy what they're subjected to or not. They just dance ecstatically in response to their incarceration. This is where biological functions are perverted as an art form, I'm guessing at the hands of this Pyramid Head, who is a sort of biological artist. It makes a mockery of the idea that any part of our anatomy might have a purpose. Like, if someone said the purpose of the pancreas is to control blood sugar levels, someone could respond with, no. The pancreas controls blood sugar levels, that's what it does, but it doesn't have a purpose because there is no law that says a pancreas must do that. And in fact, some pancreases may fail to do that. Are they no longer pancreases in that case? I don't fall on either side of the argument, but Pyramid Head has definitely made legs here that serve a function other than walking. We can call this dancing if we use that word loosely. This is a great example of CGI's potential for Uncanny Valley. Uncanny Valley, bro. Get real. This is a great example of CGI's potential for Uncanny Valley being realized. This is CGI's greatest strength, and while you can get Uncanny Valley with hand-drawn illustrations, this will forever be CGI's best attribute. Something like Malice Doll, written by Serial Experiments Lane's Chiaki De Konaka, is perfect at this, but in a very different direction. Computer graphics are perfect for making things that look fake and artificial. So a film about robot sex dolls is the perfect story to tell. These character models look like they're made out of porcelain, or a material somehow even more artificial. They move in this choppy frame rate that makes them feel like they're being puppeteered. I don't know why I have that association. Maybe from stop motion animation. This feels closer to that than any other CG anime I've seen. The background art is insane. It looks theatrical, and I mean that literally. Like it looks like something a theater crew would have put together for a set if they had a million years to work on it. The association with puppets isn't entirely off the mark either. In this interview, Chiaki J. Konaka says himself that he was inspired by Check chick puppet animations. This interview, by the way, was conducted by the voice actress for the titular Malice Doll and was directed by fucking Michael Bay or some shit. The chick puppet inspiration explains why the backgrounds are so lavish and beautiful and convey such a sense of wonder, or in this case, a perversion of wonder, the decay and rot of that feeling, like the set is molding and coming undone after ages of neglect, revealing the facade. You can see the hand-drawn designs for these characters in the pre-production phase, and while they are gorgeous, CGI is just the best medium for making these characters look artificial, like dolls. It's perfect for this kind of story about purpose, perversion, reality, existence. Dude, CGI anime can't stop making stories about reality and existence. Fucking, that's all Toy Story's about. In the first feature-length CGI film, Buzz Lightyear has a Malice Doll moment, but he gets Disneyed out of it real quick. If it wasn't for Woody, Buzz may have found himself in a very different sequel. I'm putting this on the record. Existential dread and pornography are CGI's two strongest attributes. The part of the interview where Yuki Yamada talks about her future career as a voice actress stings. According to every anime database in the English language, this was the only anime she would ever voice act in. The role of a lifetime, but still. I realize at some point I'm gonna have to talk about Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within. I know, but just let me watch it first, and then we'll talk. Who knows? It might be a hidden gem. You know how much I like to be a contrarian about things. 140 million 2001 bucks thrown at an animated project. And the best idea they could think of was, what if an action movie was beige and starred Alec Baldwin? Yeah, this was cooked from the start. First things first, Alec Baldwin was meant for 30 Rock and 30 Rock only. Every time he breaches containment, we need to call in the SCP team.
I got an OnlyFans, y'all trying to sub?
Hey,
I'm
if you're
showing
gonna have to
pussy.
get a private Snapchat
I'm
story,
showing pussy.
then
Yo,
we
we got
have to consider it.
The rich aroma of a meat.
If you let me get a private Snapchat story and send me pictures of your body, then I might be enjoying
I can put
that.
you on my... I can put...
Oh my goodness, stay away from me, stay away from me! Shorty! I got dirt!
I'm convinced this movie could have been a success if it just took some more risks. I mean, just look at Aki Ross's hair, as lovingly and painstakingly realized as Battle Angel Alita's, to the point where they had to give every other character in the movie a haircut, because Aki Ross by herself would make a scene take 10 extra years to render. And literally, wait, what? You're telling me Aki Ross was meant to be a virtual idol? What? It never stops! Let me correct myself. The two greatest strengths of CGI are existential dread, pornography, and the combination of the two that is failed CGI virtual idols.
You listed 3 things, genius. 3 things, haha. Fucking kill yourself.
Aki Ross was meant to be a virtual actress who would appear in later Square Enix films, much like what Yuki Terai and Kyoko Date were meant to be for music, and what Cyber Venus Faifai was meant to be for, This isn't a bad idea. I mean, you don't just delete a character model's data once you finish an animation. You gotta put it up on Amazon. Keeping it around and updating it feels a lot like a combination of Osamu Tezuka's Star System and John Ford's Stock Company. Aki Ross was the first experiment, so of course she had the requisite bikini shoot for Maxim, and Entertainment Weekly wrote some of their less schizophrenic articles about her. How can Aki avoid the fashion mistakes that have led to the premature crash and burn of so many a young starlet's career? The first thing she should do is find a designer to become associated with. The way Joan Allen has become Michael Kors' person. They all have their allegiances. I'm sure Donatella Versace would be keen to dress someone with such a good figure. They're talking about her like she's a real person! I wish we lived in the timeline where Spirits Within was good and didn't flop. I wish we lived in a world where virtual actors and idols succeeded and we had a rom-com starring Aki Ross with Mark Ruffalo or Hugh Grant or some shit. As it stands, the only other thing Aki Ross appeared in was The Animatrix.
Bro, they had to give her a haircut to make it work.
The behind-the-scenes film starts off with Aki Ross walking off set and over to the computer to see how the shot turned out. I wish we had the behind-the-scenes for that scene. I don't give a shit about anything else. As far as early CGI video game film crossovers, I'd much rather watch Shenmue the movie, which is clearly just a bunch of video game cutscenes and some gameplay stitched together to make a kind of coherent narrative. In a way, this predicts the video game cutscene movies that now flood YouTube. That's how I saw Asura's Wrath, because it's expensive as fuck and I can't afford that shit. The ideas that come to my mind when I think about how this film and this type of video is made, dude, I get so excited. Think about all the experiments that could be done using a video version of William Burroughs' cut-up method on video game footage. I know I'm far from the first person to think of that. A bunch of directors have probably already done the cut-up method on film. I'm pretty sure William Burroughs did that himself. Gallarians Rion. Look at their teeth. Their faces look so gross. I love it. Like, we figured out how to make cute looking characters in CGI years ago. Even Shenmue, which was just a bunch of Dreamcast cutscenes stitched together, had some cute looking characters. These guys are just ugly. Rion looks like some type of addict, which he is. It's all in the teeth. Those tiny, inhuman teeth. Even the redhead baddie they tried to make cute looks fucked up. And I dig it. The whole movie is pretty much just a compilation of Rion burning people alive. This is pretty much the middle school dream of everyone who watches my videos. The story is so melodramatic, I just wish the characters were given a little bit more room to breathe so we could justify all the drama. But this OVA's goal is to adapt the game pretty much one-to-one. But you've seen Gallarians around. You're Y2K pilled. You want a recommendation that no one else will give you. That recommendation is urda. I say recommendation in quotes, I just wanted the plus 9,000 aura pull. It's a story about a rebel effort to thwart a secret Nazi plan to, I forgot. Something about time travel? That's not important. What is important is that you watch the English dub, where all the villains have German accents and all the heroes have American accents, even though they're all German. Okay, I don't know if they're all German, but I do know that the main villainess, Madame Hitler, is German, and she raised her surrogate daughter in Germany, so how the fuck did that daughter come out with an American accent? Now, obviously, we know that the villain was given a German accent because it's inherently untrustworthy. The Hitler cosplay wasn't enough to sell general audiences on her villainy. Most anime fans probably like that. This is one of those stories that paints the Nazis as evil not because of the Holocaust, but because of their secret plans to take over the world and I guess their disreputable demeanor and Hugo Boss uniforms. Their treatment of Jews doesn't come up at all. The word Jew isn't even mentioned once. The Nazis are turned into these cool guy type villains whose only crime is that they drip too hard and move too silent and plot world takeover. It's a war between spies and secret agents and superpowered martial artists and time travelers, but it's hard to justify all that melodrama when you cut out the real tragedy that the Nazis caused. I feel like including that, while it may not have led to any groundbreaking commentary or even to any good politics, would have at least justified the emotional weight they attempt to pack in each of these 5-minute episodes. Without that, we get Nazi imagery as a coat of paint over a story whose message is, fundamentally, you don't control me, Mom. Maybe I misread, maybe I'm misremembering. I'm sure someone else can probably take away a much more interesting reading of this story. I'm just here to say that it is your obligation to watch this anime and to watch it in the English dub, just to hear the shittiest German accents of all time. I mean, they might be good German accents. I don't think I've ever heard the difference between a good or bad one of those.
This sting's worse than a sci-fi story in a magazine.
Bitch, shut the fuck up. Y'all, look at this Mario Kart ass bullshit they're about to do.
It's Ruler!
Janet!
Shoot!
Okay, my friends. It's time to dance like Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers!
Bro, this is my favorite voice actor of all time, and I'm being totally serious. Apparently her name is Mammy Maynard, and she was only in this. Fuck everybody else for not putting her on.
No more sarcastic remarks, Janet.
I'm so cynical. My life is so snide and sarcastic.
Like, what? What is this script? Dude, what the actual fuck is this ending song? Romanov Higa, the creator of Urda, ended up also making a Dominion Tank Police OVA and a weird little short film called Catblue Dynamite, a 70s movie parody about a magic cat girl who shoots guns with her prehensile tail in an effort to secure a rare Frank Sinatra tape from another magic cat girl, both of whom can also see and interact with the souls of dead people. Thankfully, this simple story got an all-star dub cast.
Refusing to talk, are you?
That's so stupid. Ghosts don't have rights.
We don't?
Pull out the magazines from your guns and drop them on the ground. This is Sinatra speaking. You should listen to the girl.
Actually, I think all it got was the dubcast. I don't think the Japanese voice actors wanted to touch this one.
Terrible, terrible. Young folks these days pointing guns at geezers. A little more patience, Mr. Sinatra. I got my Oscar in 1956. And Oscar, I'm not just some old sleazebag.
There's people like this in real life. Now you may be wondering what I'm showing you this dirty 2D animation for. And it's because look at this fucker! You've seen 3D character models in the real world. Now it's time to see them in the 2D world. This one's called Guildenstern, about a bunch of genetically engineered Yu-Gi-Oh monsters called Guildensterns, all of whom look like this. The gap between the 2D and 3D styles is very compelling to me. It really sells the disconnect. The goal was to make the monsters look exceptionally violent and unnatural, and they succeeded. I like the red Guildenstern who looks like a dominatrix. She's sexy. I also love how when a Guildenstern is violating a human, they cut to a close-up of the monster and put blood effects everywhere because they knew that depicting an actual action taking place between a 2D character model and a 3D character model would have looked like total dog shit. It already looks weird enough when they're just sitting next to each other. Okay, let me geef out for a second. Platonic Chain is what made me want to make this whole video in the first place. I wanted to make an entirely separate video dedicated just to it, but without an ability to read Japanese or recover lost files on the internet, there's only so much I can do. Let me give you the rundown. Platonic Chain takes place in an alternate Shibuya where everyone is under constant surveillance and an application called Platonic Chain harvests people's data to use as part of its services. This is not a dystopia. The story was written by Koji Watanabe, and it ended up getting both a manga adaptation and a novelization. The most notable thing about this show is probably the aesthetics. In my first video on this channel, I called this the most Y2K anime of all time, and I challenge anyone to find a better suited candidate. The Dreamcast graphics, the electronic R&B music, the gyaru fashion, the flip phones, bruh. This is an alternate Shibuya 2002. This is just Shibuya 2002. Dude, at the end of each 3-minute episode, we get a data sheet with the selected character's relevant information, including the polygon count of their character model, the most important of the 3 measurements. Call me a pervert if you want, but this is my opening message on dating apps.
Now that I think about it, she probably thinks I called her fat, so sorry, Layla.
It's kind of hard to describe the characters here because they're kind of thin. They only have 3 minutes per episode to flesh themselves out. Hitomi is the main character. All 3 are kind of equal, but Hitomi is the baseline. She's level-headed. Maybe I can describe her as the mature one in the main trio, the sensible one, but she does have her goofy side. Rika is a gyaru. She's enthusiastic, she's crazy for guys named Kenichi, to the point where she tatted the name on her shoulder. And Kanae is my favorite because I like her hair. Her dad might be a super spy. I can't remember too much about her character. All the girls have killer fashion sense. Their outfits change every episode, which I imagine is easier to do with 3D CGI, where you just have to make the outfit once and then put it on the character instead of redrawing it every single frame. I think super gals of all manga would really benefit from the 3D CG treatment. In episode 1, Rika expresses the most pressing concern regarding this technology that takes everyone's data and processes it without their consent or ability to opt out. Hitomi immediately changes the topic to talk about some secret underground supercomputer, and Rika completely forgets her concern. It is not brought up again for the rest of the series. In fact, interaction with this dystopian sci-fi concept is mostly frivolous and inconsequential. All that data harvesting is used for helping people with dieting, matchmaking, and actually, it's mostly about matchmaking. So total shoujo shenaniganry. No targeted advertisements, no identity theft, no AI girlfriend. As a matter of fact, this isn't even AI. The whole Platonic Chain app is managed by one person. Gotta be the guy who made Stardew Valley or some shit. There's an episode where the app gives the girls an eating disorder. In another episode, the app helps a guy surveil his pregnant child bride by running criminal background checks of everyone within a 10-meter radius of her. The app can also impersonate the voices of your loved ones, even the dead ones, and it can make them call you at night to get you to turn on the lights in your hotel room so a guy can spell his girlfriend's name on the side of the hotel wall with the room lights for an anniversary present. This part where a muffled dance song plays as Rika wakes up from her nightmare and sees Hitomi really hits home for me. I only watched this in 2023, but the combination of impulses hitting my brain here makes me relive 4th grade summer vacation, playing Dragon Ball Z Infinite World while listening to my cousin's UK Garage playlists. Even though this isn't even remotely similar to UK Garage. If anything, it reminds me more of You Weren't Really Here by Cult Member. I wish their batshit crazy friend Narumi showed up more. Watch the show and you'll get it. No, seriously, it only takes an hour and a half to watch the whole thing. The thing that sticks out to me on a rewatch is how each episode plays out like an advertisement for the Platonic Chain app as if it was real. Like, each episode is about how cool and effective a feature of the Platonic Chain app is, how good it is at finding people, or how useful a compatible accessory is. I wish surveillance and data harvesting applications were this fun in real life. Instead, we get Palantir trying to optimize the free will out of human beings with a blessing of all our tax money. There was this thing back in the early 2000s called Urapura, which had a bunch of behind-the-scenes Platonic Chain goodies. It was hosted through some type of old internet method where certain internet providers gave more megabytes or some computer horseshit. When I looked it up on Wayback Machine though, most of the files on these web pages had been completely lost to time. So I just spent a few minutes wandering through this machine-translated graveyard that kept giving me the same information I already had about the show. Like, bro, I already know that Koji Watanabe Hold on. What do you mean, emails? Jackpot. This is an email correspondence between Hitomi, a main character of the anime Platonic Chain, and Eri, a character created specifically for this webpage who does not appear in the show. Eri runs a blog on the Platonic Chain webpage where she posts these emails with Hitomi. So here's how it works. Eri posts her emails with Hitomi, where they mostly just go over events that happen in each episode and also talk a bit about their personal lives. These emails are only a few inches on screen from the behind-the-scenes information about the anime itself. On the same page, we get Nanae Sakata, a producer for the Platonic Chain anime, talking about real-world sports news and the behind-the-scenes decisions on Platonic Chain the anime, only a few inches from Eri's cafe. We are approaching unprecedented levels of meta-fuckery. Even this CGI production could not resist the attempt to bridge the gap between fiction and reality. It also seems like there's a bunch of audio and video files that have been lost to time. Some of these are Hitomi and her emails going into deeper discussion about what she was typing out. Others seem to be introductions by the cast and crew. The first person to find these files has dibs on the comprehensive Platonic Chain retrospective video. Also, if you can read Japanese, and also if you can score an interview with Koji Watanabe. As of July 1, 2025, all I can find are these behind-the-scenes motion capture shoots uploaded by Jewel Eternity from the DVD. The part where the cast just has fun to that Idol song they sang is the best part. I wish I could be in one of these productions. I always wanted to be 3D modeled and turned into a video game. I feel like I'd make a pretty good addition to a Hideo Kojima production, or a Fear and Hunger game. Like, bro, don't lie, I'd bring such a chill vibe to the hellscape. Alright, let's try over here. No! Get away! Once you've finished watching Platonic Chain, you must treat yourself to the masterpiece that is Platonic Chain Web. If Platonic Chain is science fiction Shibuya, then PC Web is Shibuya. Everyone's personalities change. Rika's way less energetic, Hitomi's more playful, and Kanae live streams her self-harm sessions on OnlyFans. The Platonic Chain app doesn't even make an appearance here, nor does this even feel very sci-fi. There was a bunch of other anime I was going to talk about, but it's too much of a pain in the ass to edit it all, and I don't really have that much of value to say about them. They're works of art that I recommend watching, but I don't think they benefit much from my input. Things like Reika, Zoo, and especially Joseito. I love how far apart her eyes are in that one. It really taps into the literary quality of the short story it's adapted from, which is very impressive. Things like Tough Guy, Archetype Forces, Fumizukai, dude. Open Your Mind by Mamoru Oshii is like state-of-the-art of computer animation, but for 2005. If you're an Oshii head, this is a must-watch. I was underwhelmed by Advent Children for a variety of reasons, but I still recommend it. Urban legend story Hikiko and its spiritual sequel, Monologues of Universal Transverse Mercator Eggman? That is a runaway victory for Best Title in the Universe Award. As we get into the late 2000s, there's just not as much for me to talk about. Like, Yeah, there's some bizarre CG, some excellent CG, and all kinds of shit, but it has become so standardized and ubiquitous that its presence alone is no longer noteworthy. So I'll end the video by telling everyone to watch The Case of Hannah and Alice. This is pretty much the evolution of Visitor. Listen, I know that sounds stupid, but hear me out. I mean that in the sense that it's trying to go for the classically cinematic rather than pushing the boundaries of CG. This isn't to say that it doesn't do the latter. It is a very ambitious work, but it has the feeling of a live-action movie, with the very nuanced and naturalistic performances.
And the cinematography! Dude, how the fuck did you miss that?
While the stakes here aren't as huge or dramatic as Visitors, the subtleties in the performances shine through a lot more, with the body language and the facial expressions and everything else that Visitor was lacking. It has that rotoscope jank that a lot of these anime do, like Ongaku Hour Sound and Aku no Hana. I love this look. Those are all recommendations.
Still haven't figured out how to end these things.